Welcome to the Scholar Evangelist. I am Pastor Stephen Cooper, lead pastor of Harbor City Church in San Diego, California, and I am in my second year as a resident of Evangelize Today Ministries led by Dr. Al Dayhoff. The Scholar Evangelist is someone who knows a ton about the Bible and about Jesus, but wants to get better at sharing the gospel with other people. We find that we are engaged in making discoveries. That's a huge part of the ministry. It's one of the values of Evangelize Today Ministries. And so today I'm interviewing Burt Boykin. Burt is the assistant pastor of Community PCA in Moody, Alabama. He's also an evangelist with Reformed Evangelistic Fellowship, and he is a fellow resident at Evangelize Today Ministries and the Southeastern Development Officer. And in this conversation, Burt and I talk about racism. We talk about the South. We talk about racism in our own denomination, the Presbyterian Church in America. And we talk about pressure that comes sometimes from the Christian culture that would push us into sinful actions and behaviors as we try to be faithful to the gospel of Jesus. And as I said before, one of the values of Evangelize Today Ministries is the value of discovery. And in this conversation, Burt and I are making discoveries. We're making discoveries about the culture, but then that leads us into making discoveries about the gospel, seeing things that we didn't quite see before. And in this conversation, the parable of the prodigal son becomes like in a gold mine of understanding, both our culture and how to share the presence of Jesus with people who are really very much like the older brother in that story. And so I love about this conversation that Burt and I are literally thinking out loud. And so we are making discoveries in the process of this conversation. And so I want to invite you to come and think alongside us, think along with us as we make these discoveries, and tell us what you discover in the comments below, or connect with us at www.evangelizetoday.info.
I'm not that old.
I don't know, like I'm asking, like, I've heard things about our denomination, and I know that what happened a few years ago, and the movement of the General Assembly.
The PCA broke off from the PCUS here in the South, and as they began to embrace more of a, what we would call a liberal gospel, a social gospel.
Right.
Those matters are part and parcel of that. So you're certainly encouraged. But see, on our end, and I say our Southern conservative, we look at them and say, well, they're just liberal.
Right.
They're taking away from the gospel. They're taking away the impact of the need of proclaiming Christ and Him alone. They're trying to push us into socialism. Okay. All right. So then, but their side over here is they had some good things to say as well. You're beginning to see some change here.
Well, yeah, like I see it too. Like I think we're making progress. I think it's also true that all of a sudden theological matters become important when actually there's something socially that we don't want to happen. Well, like maybe we didn't care so much about the gospel when everybody was being able to like comfortably not include blacks in their churches. But once people start feeling that pressure, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we never really liked those people anyways. And theologically, here's all the problems that now we're going to make a big deal about.
I think that was true here in the Southeast. I mean, you read some of your early PCA church fathers, and they were racist guys. Okay.
This is news to me, Burt. Like this is just a piece of like, these are details that I never understood. Like I've seen people talk about the racism that they're repenting of kind of mostly in the past. Their church has been guilty of this in the past, but they, now they're repenting and trying to own it and trying to move on.
We recently, and there's a context, a little broader context to it, but we recently had an event we participated with a local black church. It's First Missionary Baptist Church here in Moody.
Yeah, you're one of your close friends that you need to stop hanging out with if you want to have a bigger impact.
Yeah, Absolutely. And it's a guy, he and I've been friends. Our churches have done things together. I've preached for him. He's preached for me. And we have a really good relationship. And we were invited by him to have a unity walk is what he called it.
Mm.
A unity rally is what he called it. Where the two churches, they'll walk from here. We'll walk from here. We'll come together. We'll meet at Moody Crossroads. We do have a stoplight in town. That's our Moody Crossroads. So we meet at Moody Crossroads, and then we walk together up to Moody Park to show unity and solidarity. And again, the idea was to, as we looked around the country and saw violence and rioting and hatred, we were saying we want to do it a different way here in Moody. We are blessed in Moody. We are thankful. But we want to join our voices with people around the country who aren't as fortunate as we are. Met with the city officials, police chief, city attorney. All this stuff was in place. Everything was good. Now, the bigger context, a week prior, we had a Moody police officer shot by two black folks. Now, my friend, graciously and cautiously, he postponed anything he wanted to do until after all that ceremonial stuff, the funeral, all the stuff surrounding this murdered police officer was over. And then we held our event. But we got a lot of pushback on that. In fact, I was told by the pastor of the First Baptist Church here in Moody, a guy, he grew up here in Moody. He's just a Moody boy, right? Big old boy. He's the poster boy for your Southern small town Baptist church. He looked at me and said, "Burt, this is not the reputation you want for you or Community Presbyterian Church." Well, yeah, it is. Actually, it is. But it's still here and it's still strong. There is a racial element that we're not getting beyond.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, like, I don't have any of the answers on this stuff, but one of the things that I've thought about is that there is a national conversation that's happening. And in the national conversation, it is satanically polarized so that both sides are articulating views that have some truth in them, but have a lot of evil in them as well. Yeah. And those satanically polarized views are feeding the multi-billion-dollar media companies that exist on both sides of the political aisle. Oh, yeah. And so in Moody, you're not allowed to have an independent conversation with other, like with the Black community in Moody. Right. Because you've got to end up picking a side and then representing that side and then beating the crap out of the other side with the best points that you have, and then dodging as best you can their best points against your side. Yeah. Okay. And that, like, man, like that's layers and layers and layers of evil.
It is. It really is. And I know you're a big Trump supporter, but from my perspective, he's not I don't think you are. But anyway.
It's like, interesting. Okay.
No, I don't think so. But he only throws fuel on the fire. And people here, they get giddy with excitement when he throws out one of those absurd tweets, and they're like, "See, he nailed it. He nailed it."
Well, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, so this is the satanic inspiration on the right. Mm-hmm. And and the hard part is that, like, I used to think like, what on earth is he doing? Like, even the people that I know, and even the ways that I would support some of the things that he's doing or has done, like this, like, where in the world is this helpful, and why in the world is this helpful? And the hard, like, the hard truth is, he's convinced, like, he would not do stuff like this. People say, oh, well, this is just proof that he's like lost it. This is proof of his narcissism. This is proof, and he might be a narcissist. I don't think he's lost it. I think he knows full well that there's an enormous number of people that are going to vote in 5 months who will go out and vote because of that kind of stuff.
I believe with all my heart, if he thought he could win being a liberal Democrat, he would be a liberal Democrat.
Yeah.
I believe that with all my heart. He will do whatever it takes. He'll align himself. I mean, he's trying to align himself with Christianity, and the things that come out of his mouth are not even remotely Christian. But we're such a dumbed down Christian society in America. We just hear the word Jesus and we're like, well, yay.
Well, and I got to tell you, like, just it is encouraging to hear the President of the United States say, we'd love to have churches open by Easter. You know, it's encouraging to hear someone that is in that position speak positively about the church. But I also know that the attractiveness of that is like, it's going to bed with Hagar, you know, like it's sleeping with Hagar. And that's just, anytime you've got a good goal that is available through evil and ungodly means, like the fruit of that is not going to be good.
Yeah.
You know, and so,
but you know, here we're in the heart of NASCAR country. And you may not be a big NASCAR race fan. It's okay. But you've certainly heard, and this was recently, you know, Bubba Wallace, the only black driver.
Right.
There was the noose issue in his garage and whatever. And of course it turns out it wasn't directed toward him probably. And it just, you know, it's an unfortunate thing all the way around. Probably on both sides. It just seems like, gosh, it was very unfortunate. And well, let's move on now. But, you know, glad it happened and glad we were aware and sensitive and that NASCAR is aware and maybe taking a different stand on some things. But, you know, now Trump is demanding that he apologize for this hoax which he had nothing to do with.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, like, he's casting him kind of like a Jesse Smollett type person. Yeah. Okay.
He did nothing.
Huh.
He was told. NASCAR pulled him in the office and said, "We hate to inform you. I know you haven't seen it, but there's a noose in your garage." He had never seen it.
Huh.
So, but it's his fault. And of course, you know, it's the same kind of mentality. You know, if you dare say Black Lives Matter, not the organization, but just the concept.
Yeah.
Well, all lives matter. What is wrong with you? All lives matter.
Yeah.
Like, yes. Thank you for clearing that up because I wasn't aware.
Right.
But he fuels that kind of mentality, and people here eat it up.
Huh.
We need the bad guy, and it's black folks. No, it's not black folks because we love black folks. They just have their place in life, and it's not where ours is. You know, it's the liberals, it's the Chinese, whatever.
Yeah.
It's always somebody else. And we love that because we are a very self-righteous culture. We're all good. We're very good. We're very nice. We have our Christian heritage. Have you looked on a dollar bill lately? It says, "In God we trust."
Right.
This is our country.
Yeah. Well, so I wanted to ask you.
I mean, they play on all these things, and that's how people.
Yeah. One of the things that you said in your email, you know, was about that you'd get a lot more support if you adopted the KJV, if you, stopped associating with Black folks.
Yeah.
If you started preaching more harshly against, condemning homosexuals and, and then like committed yourself to being a Trump supporter, like an unvarnished Trump supporter, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
that'd be the talk of the town, man.
well, so the thing that hit me when I read that part of your email, and just that everybody's nice and good, this
Yeah.
Southern thing, and I'm guessing that you've probably thought about this, but um, like it feels like there's a version of older brotherishness with the parable of the prodigal sons, that seems like a good descriptor of the environment, of the context that you're ministering in.
Yes.
I mean, do you think about it that way? Have
Yeah.
you thought about it like that?
Yeah. Ever since I heard Keller preach on that, I
Yeah.
thought about it that way.
Okay.
That is our culture. We are the older brother culture.
Okay. Yeah.
We have done it the right way, Dad.
Right.
These liberals, they have squandered your wealth. They have destroyed this country. They
Mhm.
have brought in, prostitution and sin and wickedness. They have ruined us financially. And now you're taking my coat and my ring and no, because I'm good and they're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So we're
So,
definitely clearly an older brother culture.
so like, what's your take on the father's response to the older brother? Like, how would you describe, how the father responded to the older brother in the parable?
Um, one of love, one of welcome, of eagerly waiting for that day. Um, when both sons, will I not only receive my prodigal who's come home, but I long for the day when my oldest son will also submit. And I'm not exegeting the passage or anything like that, but
Well, I want to know what's on your heart when I ask you the question, because I
yeah,
think it gives me a window into, if you've thought about it like this, how has this worked out in your practical ministry?
yeah,
And it sounds like you're still, like, you kind of haven't maybe thought that deeply.
not really. Yeah, again, we're in the South. We don't think very deeply. We deal on surface things.
No, come on, you're in the PCA though, so you got this tension now wrestling, and that's part of the problem, right?
That's true. I am in the PCA. The father, I think in the parable, the father, has shown nothing but grace and mercy and kindness and love for both sons. And I think he continues that way. I think the father shows incredible love to people here, and he continues to bless them and provide for them and care for them, as self-righteous and arrogant and turd-like as they are.
Yeah. What does the father say to the older son?
I don't know, something along the lines of, you've been here, you've always enjoyed all I have.
Okay.
What is it? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think, see, if you're in an older brother culture, I guess, I don't know, it occurs to me to encourage you, right? So we're getting to know each other, right? Yeah, I don't know anything about your situation, but what I feel, if I can channel my Pentecostal brothers and sisters, I feel like I might be getting a word from the Lord here. Burt.
Yeah, Rhema. Bring it on, brother.
I want to give it to you here, in a way that's like, let's see if we can discover something that might be helpful. The father goes out, right, to the older brother.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to come in. I think he sends one of his servants in to find out what the heck is going on, and then the father goes out to the brother. So there's something there. And the brother like goes on a tirade, and he says, all these years I've slaved for you, and you never gave me a calf that I could make merry with my friends.
Goat. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, goat. Yeah. And I think that what I think that what the father picks up on is, wait, like, slave? Like, you've slaved for all these years? Like, is that what our relationship has been?
Yeah.
What he says is, like, all that I have is yours. You know, like, everything. Like, you literally have everything else. You know, like, because he took his inheritance, and like, so everything else is yours. You know, and
Sure, yeah.
but there's this like dichotomy of, I've been slaving all these years. I've done my part. I've been the good son. I've towed the line. I've been obedient, you know, and
Right.
and it's hard to know if this is like sanctified imagination that's accurate or not, but you know, I tend to think that it feels like what the older brother is doing is he's saying, like, I haven't been like that. And then when this son of yours shows up, you kill the fatted calf for him, right? Like, he's got so much resentment. He's been harboring so much bitterness toward his younger brother, and he's seen himself as so much better. And the father, it's like the father is saying, like, oh my goodness, like, all these years you've been living in this worldview. Like, all these years you've been living thinking you're just slaving away, and I haven't been thinking about you like that at all. And it's like, you've been thinking about this. It's getting a little bit muddled right now in my head as I'm thinking about this, but the father's like, look, like, everything I have is yours. Like, if you ever wanted to throw a party, you could throw a party every week almost with your friends. Yeah. Like, I was never ever wanting to keep you from enjoying all that you have ever. And so, you know, when Tim, see, here's what's frustrating is that you get someone like Tim who is so brilliant and so amazing, but what he's doing is for New York City. And there are times when Tim actually described that he was trying to appeal to the younger brothers in New York by critiquing older brotherishness in front of them. And so, like, you need to do the opposite. Like, you're in a very different place because you're actually appealing to older brothers. See, Tim was appealing to younger brothers, and Tim knew that the best way to separate, I mean, shoot, like, now I'm remembering. So Tim said that if you tell younger brothers that they need to love Jesus and have a relationship with him, all they hear is that you want these younger brothers to become older brothers. Like, that's what they hear. Doesn't matter what you say. You can say all the right things. You can say all the best language. You can quote the scriptures and preach the gospel. But, like, the only way to separate Jesus from what younger brothers perceive older brothers are like is to critique the older brotherishness in their presence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so Tim would say, now listen, you know, the way that you've heard this is you think that Jesus agrees with legalism. And I'm not saying that. Like, the gospel is different from legalism, you know? And so he was just always critiquing legalism because he knew that if he didn't separate the gospel from legalism, that all the younger brother people he was trying to appeal to would think he's trying to get them to become older brother legalists. And nobody wants that, right? And so, and because he had really thought through this, he was really effective, you know, and there's all kinds of other reasons why he was effective too. But I don't know, like, it seems like your ministry is very, very different because you're trying to reach older brothers.
Yeah.
And older brothers have a different experience, you know, like, the younger brothers need to know that God loves them and will accept them just as they are. What do older brothers need to hear? What do you think?
Well, the older brothers probably need to hear that, I guess a couple things, following the parable, that, you have been, and you are part of the family.
Uh-huh.
Don't be resentful, because we're welcoming a younger brother. So enjoy, your status as part of the family, but also, don't neglect. And maybe I'm saying the same thing. I don't know. Hang on.
Say it again. No, say the same thing then.
Don't neglect to welcome the younger brother.
Okay.
Don't resent him. You need to welcome him as well, and don't do understand that you said it. I like the way you said something. You could have had a party, and maybe we should have. You can have a party anytime you want. Because all of this is yours. So don't neglect to understand who you already are. I don't know. It's a good question. What does the older brother here in the South need to hear?
I bet, and again, this is like, in some ways, this is assuming that that the father's words to the older brother are somehow like paradigmatic for the older brothers in the South, right? But
Yeah.
let's just assume that for a second.
Yeah.
This
fair.
dynamic, this dynamic that if you feel like a slave in any way, then something's gone wrong in our relationship.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like a pivotal thing to mine. Because if part of the reason why you call yourself Christian and live in all these crazy ways is because being a Christian feels like slavery, like, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe preaching the gospel to people that are older brothers in the South, maybe it looks like saying, maybe it's also critiquing legalism and saying, like, this isn't about slavery here. Like, this is about finding life with your father. Like, he's given all this stuff to you. Like, you have every blessing in the heavenly places in Christ. You have all you need for life and godliness. Like, my God has richly supplied all your needs, right? That we have, and yet we live like slaves. We live like all that matters is our obedience or our niceness or our goodness.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, maybe, maybe there's like maybe there needs to be a healthy critique of the younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
So this, let me.
That's probably where I would struggle.
Right.
We've actually done a fair job of, here in our community, of critiquing legalism and really drawing people out of legalism, and we've taken a lot of crap for that too. That we're not as maybe serious about the Lord as some other churches around here are, but
because you're willing to celebrate, you're willing to have parties.
Because we have a pretty good time, yeah.
Yeah.
And because, again, we're not trying to moralize our way into heaven,
Right.
We're not anti-obedience or anything. We're not antinomialist or anything like that. But we've done a pretty good job of again addressing legalism in our culture. But what we probably haven't done as well is, so how do we critique? If Keller did a good job of critiquing the elder brother, we probably haven't done a good job of critiquing the younger brother.
Right. Yeah. Ooh, that's really, really good, because because the reason Tim critiqued the older brother is because that's how younger brothers feel.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be like him. Like, I don't want to be that guy. Like, that guy sucks. Like, it's funny. Maybe both of them thought it felt like slavery,
Mm-hmm.
and the younger brother just had the guts to leave.
Yeah.
You know. And so, if you're trying to appeal to the older brothers, what they're feeling is, hey, it's not fair. All those people are getting away with this. Like, they're living this crazy life. Like, what the heck? Like, doesn't everybody know that what they're doing is wrong?
Yeah.
And maybe part of the appeal to the older brother is to say, hey, you're right. Like, what the younger brothers are doing is not honoring to God.
Mhm.
And the question for us is, are there ways that we're lost? And I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a bunch of questions, right? But like, maybe what hit me was, you've got older brother ways to miss Jesus in the gospel and younger brother ways to miss Jesus in the gospel, right?
Yeah.
The younger brother says, like, I'm out, like, I'm going to go live my life and do what I want. And so antinomianism, right? Hedonism is the lifestyle that's associated with younger brotherishness. But then older brothers say, all right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna follow the rules, and I'm gonna get blessed because I've done that. And so that's self-righteousness, you know, and that's where so you got antinomianism and legalism. And so maybe what you're doing is you're identifying an issue, and then you identify the two ways that it gets missed.
Yeah.
Both younger and older brothers miss it. But then you turn to your older brothers and say, like, I want to call you to Jesus away from your older brotherishness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm thinking out loud here with you.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
But there's something there that, yeah, I think if that's who you're appealing to, it's not just, oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. It's not just that you want to get really good at convicting them for their lostness,
Mm-hmm.
but there is something of God's image in their critique of the younger brother that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And coming up with a way that might help them know, I don't know. I guess this is kind of the work that might help bring even more clarity to the ministry of the gospel that you're bringing into your community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the challenge is to, critique the behavior, lifestyle, values of the younger brother without coming across like an older brother.
Yeah.
Without being the guy who says, the hell with the PCA, I'm joining the new Vanguard Presbytery because,
right,
even the conservatives in the PCA are too liberal for me.
Right.
I have to be right about everything. So it's that challenge of how do you critique the younger brother? How do you critique, sexual immorality? How do you critique racism? How do you critique hatred? How do you critique all these things without being an ass?
Yeah.
Because people expect you, and now we have a president who models it for us.
Mm-hmm.
They expect you and celebrate you when you are an ass.
It occurs to me that the older brother in the parable, well, and I mean, my understanding of that parable is that the older brother in the parable is the Pharisees and the religious leaders.
Yeah.
Because Jesus tells the three parables on the heels of the religious leaders saying that Jesus is hanging out with tax collectors and sinners, right? Yeah. And so the older brother is the Jewish leadership that doesn't want to join the party of Jesus, celebrating the younger brothers coming home.
Yeah.
And so the younger brother is the outcasts of Israel who've been neglected and forgotten and condemned by the religious leaders, but Jesus is receiving them and embracing them and celebrating with them that they're coming back to God.
Yeah.
And so, given what we know about the hypocrisy and the evil hearts of the religious leaders, your older brothers, I mean, because at one point I was thinking it's, well, like, can we really call your folks older brothers because they're drinking, they're alcoholic, they're having, I mean, they're doing all these awful things, right? But I was like, well, actually, that's what the older brothers were doing in the parable too.
Yeah.
You know, so the older brother, I mean, this is interesting, right? Because the older brother is mostly provoked by, because when so the younger brother comes back and you got two reactions. The older brother rejects and condemns and probably says, well, I want to hear your speech of repentance. I want to see if you're really sorry for what you've done. And I want to watch and see if you're going to work your way back into the good graces and make up for what you've done, right? I want to see the fruits that keep with repentance, even, might put some religious language on it.
Yeah.
And the father cuts off the middle of the speech. Then, at the beginning of the speech, like, he's got it prepared, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Please make me a slave. Like, that's the speech that he's got ready.
Right.
And he says, Father, I've sinned. And then the father cuts him off.
Yeah. He never gets to that slave. Treat me like a slave.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it feels like there's, I mean, maybe one angle is to say, if you're going to talk about the younger brother, you can say, well, maybe the father's disposition the whole time the son was gone was he's going to end up enslaved in darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And he left thinking he's going to have freedom, but he's just going to find bondage.
Yeah.
And there's a sadness and a compassion that the father has, while the brother is like angry because the son's doing maybe what he wants to do and wishes he could do but doesn't get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had that much guts.
What do you mean? Like he might say, I wish I had the guts to go. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there are days I think we all wish the heck with this stuff. Man, I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
I know. Yeah.
You wonder.
Yeah. Well, but the thing that keeps me from that is it's John 6:66. Like, Jesus, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
You have the words of eternal life.
Yeah.
Like, there's nowhere else. Like this, if I leave this, I'm not going anywhere better.
Yeah.
I mean, it might feel better for a while, but I'll end up I'll end up not eating what gets fed to pigs because I'm not allowed to touch that food.
Well, and even doing as much evangelism as I'm doing out amongst unbelievers, and there are those days when you think, man, just the heck with the church, the heck with all the stress. I won't embrace. That's the lifestyle I want. I just want to go. But then you're around these people and you see that, you just thought the church had problems. Then these people are far worse off. I mean, they live in anger, they live in fear, they live in uncertainty. They're depressed. They're discouraged. I mean, their lives are hell. It's a living hell for them. And it's good to be around them because, again, it reminds you, no, I don't want this.
Yeah.
I don't want. Yeah,
the grass is always greener, right?
It's not greener. It's really not.
It's not. Yeah.
I don't want to be a slave to money. I don't want to be a slave to pleasure. I don't want to be a slave to all these. And these people are slaves. I mean, they really are slaves.
Huh.
Whether it's alcohol or sex or whatever it is, they're slaves.
Yeah.
Money, all these things. See it all the time, every day. So
I feel like I don't know. I mean, it seems like, and this is again me offering you some advice, that like if you can work on a narrative for you that tries to help identify what does older brother-ishness look like here in the South? What does younger brother-ish look like here in the South?
Yeah.
And how does God respond to this? Like, how do I formulate the third way so that mostly the older brothers would see that there's a difference? Because the people, like what you said, the people who think that you guys are a little bit too loose.
Yeah.
That is That's the opposite. That's the other side of the coin that Tim has. Because like if younger brothers think that you just telling them to love Jesus, have a relationship with him looks like older brotherishness, then I bet you that what you're that experience of you being accused of being too liberal or whatever, that's an older brother looking at you thinking you're saying the gospel, you're preaching the gospel, but what all they can see is you just want to let younger brothers run free. And so how do you, so you've got to critique younger brotherishness, not with their criticism, but with Jesus's gospel centered criticism.
Yeah, no, yeah. And that's where we struggle, where I struggle.
Yeah.
We know who we are, but I know who I am. I struggle with that because what has been modeled is so inappropriate.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I picture the father with the older brother saying, like, I am not ignorant of what my son, your brother, has done, but we had to celebrate because he's home.
Yeah.
And what is it, it's almost like there's a couple of moments in that parable that make me want to say, man, what does that look like in the South? Mm-hmm. You know, like the moment of the older brother saying, all these years I've slaved. The moment where the father says, like, wait, hold on, all that I have is yours. And then the father sort of sharing a little bit more of his heart for the younger son in a way that doesn't justify his behavior, you know, but is, you know, but also is willing to receive him. Yeah, like trying to flesh out what those could look like, what the, like, how does that parable sort of become a little bit of an allegory for what your ministry there?
Yeah, no, I think that's where I am. That's where we struggle.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, like, yeah, I'd love to, if you want to take a stab at trying to like write out a couple things. I mean, it doesn't have to be long, but like even just a couple of paragraphs on each of those moments or what that parable kind of does and stirs inside of you. Like we could review it. And
okay.
I mean, if you want, no pressure.
Yeah. No, I'd probably like to do that. Yeah. How do we critique the younger brother graciously in an older brother culture?
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Scholar Evangelist. If you want to connect further with me, you can find me at www.harborcity.church. If you want to connect with Burt or with ET Ministries, you can go to www.evangelizetoday.info. And I want to let you know that our next Scholar Evangelist event is on Tuesday, August 4th, and it is a live event. We're going to be interviewing live on Zoom Pastor Michael Davis. And Michael's going to be sharing about the skill that he has developed to hear the cries of the soul. And he is discovering the image of God in the most unlikely place, in the stories that lay underneath tattoos. And so this is a Tattoo Story Hunters edition of the Scholar Evangelist, and we hope that you will join us for that. So sign up again at www.evangelizetoday.info, and when you register, we're going to send you a free chapter of Dr. Al Dayhoff's book, Tattoos, Telling the Secrets of the Soul. And so go over to evangelizetoday.info, register for that event, and we will see you then.